working to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
Hello, you're watching Eagle News, ASEAN in Focus. And joining me today is from our EBC Thailand Bureau. Here's Cristel Di Marukot. Hello, Cristel.
Hello, I'm Cristel Di Marukot from EBC Thailand Bureau, bringing you the news in the dynamic ASEAN region.
On today's headlines. The Philippines is temporarily banning flights from the United Kingdom from December 24 to the 31st. Due to concerns over the spread of a new variant of SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes the coronavirus disease, emerging in the UK.
An American warship sailed through waters of the contested Spratly Islands in the South China Sea on Thursday, in the latest challenge to Beijing's sweeping territorial claims in the region.
The ASEAN Center for Biodiversity and the Philippines Climate Change Commission held the Biodiversity and Building Resilience to the Impacts of Climate Change in the ASEAN webinar, coinciding with the 5th anniversary of the Paris Agreement.
In Singapore, researchers invented a robot which boasts an arm that mimics human movement to help take the load off overworked cleaners during the coronavirus pandemic.
First, the Philippines is temporarily banning flights from the United Kingdom from the December 24th to the 31st due to concerns over the spread of the new variant of SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes coronavirus disease or COVID-19, emerging in the UK. President Duterte approved the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases, Resolution 90, as part of efforts to prevent the entry of a new variant of SARS-CoV-2 in the country. Passengers already in transit from the UK and all those who have been to the UK within 14 days immediately preceding arrival in the Philippines, who arrived before 12:01 a.m. as of the 24th of December, will not be subject to entry restriction but will be required to undergo stricter quarantine and testing protocols. Now, such protocols include the observation of an absolute 2-week quarantine period at the Athletes Village in the New Clark City, notwithstanding a negative reverse transcription polymerase chain reaction or RT-PCR test result. Outbound travel to the UK will likewise be subject to the exit protocols of the Philippines and the UK. Last December 22, the Department of Health Technical Advisory Group, the Philippine Genome Center, the Research Institute for Tropical Medicine, and the World Health Organization Country Office convened to discuss the reported new variant of coronavirus and later submitted recommendations to the DOH. More than 40 countries have already shut their borders to the United Kingdom due to the fears over the new coronavirus strain spreading 70% faster than others.
In Singapore, the Ministry of Health, or MOH, long-term pass holders and short-term visitors with recent travel to the United Kingdom will not be allowed entry into the country from 11:59 p.m. on Wednesday, December 23. The announcement followed the discovery of a new highly infectious strain of the novel coronavirus in the UK, which British Health Secretary Matt Hancock said was out of control. Returning Singapore citizens and permanent residents will be required to undergo a COVID-19 polymerase chain reaction, or PCR, test upon arrival in Singapore at the start of their 14-day stay-home notice. Education Minister Lawrence Wong, who co-chairs the multi-ministry task force combating COVID-19, told reporters on Tuesday that Singapore has been monitoring the situation in Britain very closely. Mr. Wong said the strain has yet to be detected in the Republic, but added Singapore has to stay vigilant and monitor how the strain is spreading.
The World Health Organization Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said reports of the new variants of the COVID-19 virus in South Africa and the United Kingdom are, quote, natural and expected. He also said there's no evidence so far that it is more likely to cause severe disease or death. Let's listen in.
In the past few days, there have been reports of new variants of the COVID-19 virus in South Africa and the United Kingdom. Viruses mutate over time. That's natural and expected. The UK has reported that this new variant transmits more easily, but there is no evidence so far that it's more likely to cause severe disease or mortality. WHO is working with scientists to understand how these generic changes affect how the virus behaves. The bottom line is that we need to suppress transmission of all SARS-CoV-2 viruses as quickly as we can. The more we allow it to spread, the more opportunity it has to change.
Very well, please.
Okay. No, I think Maria says it all, but I think it's important maybe just to re-emphasize a couple of things. There's zero evidence at this point that there's any increase in severity associated with this disease. Clearly, work is ongoing to look at transmission and the increased rates of transmission and how much of that is attributable to this particular variant. We've seen many variants emerge over the last number of months, and some have been successful, some have not been as successful as establishing themselves as part of the driving force of COVID. What no variant has done yet is establish itself as having any higher level of severity or evading our diagnostics or hiding from vaccines or the effectiveness of vaccines. And
now, all viruses mutate, some more rapidly than others. We have one example, the influenza virus, which mutates quite rapidly and requires every year the vaccine strain actually to be reviewed and revised based on the circulating influenza strains prevalent that year. So that's one example of a viral vaccine that's updated every year with the current information. Now, the SARS-CoV-2 virus is mutating at a much slower rate than the influenza virus. And so far, even though we've seen a number of changes, a number of mutations, none has made a significant impact on either the susceptibility of the virus to any of the currently used therapeutics, drugs, or the vaccines under development.
The UK strain has also been detected in small numbers in Australia, Denmark, and the Netherlands, according to the WHO. Another variant with similar genetic mutations has been linked to widespread transmission in South Africa.
German pharmaceutical company BioNTech has suggested it is confident that the coronavirus vaccine it jointly developed with us, firm Pfizer, will be effective against the new variant of the virus spreading in Britain. BioNTech Chief Executive Officer Ogur Sahin spoke to reporters online on Tuesday.
UK, and this variant is a little bit different. It has 9 mutations, not only a single mutations, and we don't know at the moment if our vaccine is also able to provide protection against this new variant. But scientifically, it is highly likely that the immune response by this vaccine also can deal with the new virus variants. Yeah, so as a scientist, you are not optimistic, but you think in likelihoods. So the likelihood that our vaccine work, as I said, is is relatively high. Because even though there are multiple mutations, there are much more sites which are not mutated. The beauty of the messenger RNA technology is that we can directly start to engineer a vaccine which completely mimics this new mutation, and we could be able to provide a new vaccine technically within 6 weeks, so that means a vaccine which contains this information.
Meanwhile, BioNTech's chief business officer said that the company is absolutely delighted by the EU's approval of the vaccine. And also, it said that thanks to the mRNA technology, it can now have a new vaccine ready in 6 weeks, if necessary, against the mutated strain detected in Britain. Again, let's listen in.
Well, clearly for BioNTech as a European company, we're absolutely delighted, and it's really great to see. This is one of the first conditional approvals anywhere in the world, and it's not just for one country, it's for 27, so really delighted. We're just finishing off the paperwork, actually, just to make sure the qualities on the vaccines are still appropriate, and then we will start shipping as early as tomorrow morning. Coronaviruses, as many viruses, are inherently unstable and change quite frequently. And we've been aware of 19 changes to the COVID-19 virus since it was discovered. And our vaccine has demonstrated that it works against all 19 of those variations. With the new variation, it's really too early to say, and we're testing at the moment to see if we continue to maintain efficacy. Absolutely, and that's one of the great advantages of mRNA. It is really good for a pandemic. We can change the vaccine and have a new vaccine ready for discussion with the regulatory authorities in 6 weeks.
Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha on Tuesday night vowed legal action against people bringing in illegal migrant workers to Thailand.
ในส่วนของขบวนการนำแรงงานเถื่อนเข้าประเทศนั้นจะต้องถูกดำเนินคดีถูกทำลายให้สิ้นซากไม่ว่าจะเป็นทั้งเจ้าหน้าที่รัฐหรือประชาชนที่เกี่ยวข้องเพราะการแพร่ระบาดครั้งนี้ตรวจพบผู้ติดเชื้อจากแรงงานต่างด้าวมากที่สุดสำหรับสถานการณ์ที่เกิดขึ้นที่สมุทรสาครปัจจุบันได้มีการกักกันและอยู่ระหว่างการสอบสวนโรคเชิงรุกเราเข้มงวดในเรื่องของการปกป้องดูแลสุขภาพของประชาชนนี่คือเหตุผลที่ประเทศไทยเจอปัญหาเศรษฐกิจที่เบากว่าประเทศอื่นๆหลายประเทศชาวต่างชาติหลายคนที่เข้ามาที่สุวรรณภูมิบอกกับผมว่าเขาประทับใจในความเป็นมืออาชีพและความมีประสิทธิภาพของเจ้าหน้าที่ทีมต่างๆที่บริหารจัดการขั้นตอนการเข้าประเทศได้อย่างน่าชื่นชม
Thai Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha on Monday blamed a coronavirus outbreak linked to the kingdom's largest seafood market on low-paid migrant workers employed in the country's lucrative shrimp industry. Thailand has been on high alert since Thursday when a 67-year-old prawn seller from Mahachai Market tested positive for coronavirus. Contact tracing and mass testing found more than 800 cases so far linked to the site, a major outbreak for a country which previously had just 4,000 confirmed infections. The majority of the new cases are workers from Myanmar who toil on shrimping boats and in processing factories linked to the multi-billion-dollar Thai seafood industry. Thailand shares a 2,400-kilometer border with Myanmar, which has seen an alarming spike since August and still registers some 1,000 new cases a day.
In other news in the region, Myanmar closed off public gardens, parks, and a lake in its biggest city, Yangon, hoping to prevent a spike of COVID cases during the year-end holidays. City officials trying to protect recent gains in containing the infections put up barricades, signs, and cordons around the Mahabandula Park and along the banks of the Inya Lake, among other popular sites known for drawing holiday crowds. The closures come amid fears that fatigue and frustration from the crisis and containment measures could see a larger turnout than usual this year.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Mga mahalagang pangyayari na naganap di lamang sa bansa, kundi maging sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo, ating balikan sa Pilipinas 2020. Tinutukan ng Eagle News Team sa iba't ibang sulok ng bansa, pati na sa ipayong dagat. Pilipinas 2020. Hatid sa inyo ng Net25, Radyo Agila, EagleNews.ph at ng Eagle News Live. Pilipinas 2020. Abangan!
Patapos na po ang taon, pero hindi pa rin kami tapos sa pagbibigay ng maaaksyong dance move dito sa PNG.
At ngayong linggo, mas matinding dance showdown ang inyong matutunghayan because we will bring you the 4th monthly finals.
Yes, dito lang yan sa mas pinatinding biggest talent competition on Philippine TV and online.
Tagisan ng Galing Part 2
Dance Edition!
Welcome back to ASEAN in Focus. An American warship sailed through waters off the contested Spratly Islands in the South China Sea on Thursday, in the latest challenge to Beijing's sweeping territorial claims in the region. Guided missile destroyer USS John S. McCain asserted navigational rights and freedoms in the Spratly Islands, the U.S. 7th Fleet said in a statement. This freedom of navigation operation upheld the rights, freedoms, and lawful uses of the sea recognized in the international law by challenging restrictions on innocent passage imposed by China, Vietnam, and Taiwan, it added. China claims nearly all the South China Sea, including the Spratly Islands, though Taiwan, the Philippines, Brunei, Malaysia, and Vietnam all claim parts of it. The region is believed to have valuable oil and gas deposits. Further angering those countries and the U.S., Beijing has moved aggressively to build reefs into artificial islands capable of hosting military planes. The move came amid a rise in U.S.-China tensions over the coronavirus pandemic, in which Washington has accused Beijing of hiding and downplaying the initial outbreak detected in the Chinese city of Wuhan late last year. Relations between both countries have been strained on multiple levels since Donald Trump took office in 2017. A trade war launched by Trump has infuriated Beijing, as did his authorization of a $1.3 billion arms sale to Taiwan, which China considered a rebel province.
In Thailand, the arrest of demonstrators under treason laws is deeply troubling. That is according to the UN Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. Now, the announcement comes after the authorities charged dozens of activists in past weeks, including a teenage protester. Spokesperson Ravina Shamdasani said that they could face prison sentences of between 3 and 15 years. Let's listen in.
We are deeply troubled by the move by Thai authorities to charge at least 35 activists over the past few weeks, including a 16-year-old student activist, under Article 112, which is the lèse-majesté provision of Thailand's criminal code. The offense carries sentences of between 3 and 15 years imprisonment for defaming, insulting, or threatening the country's royal family. We are particularly alarmed that the 16-year-old activist was presented by police to the juvenile court with a request for a detention order. A number of UN human rights mechanisms, including the UN Human Rights Committee, which oversees implementation of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, have repeatedly called on Thailand over the past decade to bring this law in line with the country's international obligations. It is extremely disappointing that after a period of 2 years without any cases, we are suddenly witnessing a large number of cases, and shockingly, now also against a minor. We also remain concerned that other serious criminal charges are being filed against activists engaged in peaceful protests in recent months, including charges of sedition and offenses under the Computer Crimes Act. Again, such charges have been filed against a minor, among others. We call on the government of Thailand to stop the repeated use of such serious criminal charges against individuals for exercising their rights to freedom of peaceful expression and assembly. People should be able to exercise these rights without fear of reprisals. The UN Human Rights Committee has found that the detention of individuals solely for exercising these rights constitutes arbitrary arrest or detention. We also urge the government to amend the lèse-majesté law and bring it into line with Article 19 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights on the right to freedom of expression.
Malaysian police have crippled a Macau scam and online gambling syndicate. 11 individuals, including 4 Chinese nationals, were arrested in 3 raids conducted around the capital yesterday. Dang Wangi District Police Chief ACP Muhammad Zainal Abdullah said the first raid at about 3:30 p.m., 3 Chinese men aged 28 to 34 were arrested at a condominium in Jalan Dorai Sami off Jalan Sultan Ismail here. He said the team which conducted the inspection found 40 mobile phones of various brands, 2 computers, 1,168 Chinese yuan, and 5,011 Malaysian ringgit. Muhammad Zainal said the next 2 raids were carried out by a team from the Criminal Investigation Department from the Dang Wangi District Police Headquarters in Jalan Konlai near here. According to him, in the first of the 2 raids at a residency at about 5:30 p.m., the police arrested a 35-year-old male Chinese national suspected of being involved in online gambling, who is currently under remand until December 25.
own way. So congratulations. It was good performances.
Chef Happy Tips, kapiling nyo ba rin ang batang masunurin ng baby boy ng Happy Time?
Bili na ng itlog.
Pamigan na no! Kuya, pamigan!
Congratulations, Mask Sunurin hosts Aiki, for winning first runner-up in the 2020 Philpop Songwriting Festival.
First runner-up from Metro Manila Cluster, Destiny by Aiki, Interpreter, Kevin Yadaw, and Junior Crown.
Your entry, Destiny, has indeed found its destiny in the music scene. Continue to inspire us with your brand of music. Your Happy Time family is truly proud of you.
Welcome back. Asian markets mostly rose on Wednesday following 2 days of selling, while investors appeared initially unfuzzed over Donald Trump after Donald Trump called the new stimulus package a disgrace and told U.S. lawmakers to amend it. Equities and oil prices have taken a hit recently as virus cases surge across the planet, and a new, more transmissible strain was reported in the UK, forcing governments to impose tight restrictions and lockdowns to contain the disease over the festive period. The worrying spike in infections has overshadowed the rollout of vaccines and news at the start of the week that Congress had finally hammered out an economic rescue package worth around $900 billion. However, Hong Kong, Tokyo, Shanghai, Sydney, Seoul, Taipei, and Jakarta were all in positive territory after recent losses, while Wellington extended gains, Singapore and Manila fell.
The Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, has warned the public against seeking passport assistance from strangers offering services on Facebook and other social media chat groups. The DFA Office of Consular Affairs said it received reports on Filipinos who booked their passport appointment with help from strangers online and ended up paying more. The DFA urged applicants who made an appointment with a third party and are doubtful of the authenticity of their application to contact its hotline to verify their applications. It said applications that were made through a third party will be accepted for processing only after the appointment and the identity of the applicant has been verified, and processing will only be done at the consular office where the appointment was made. Passport appointments can be booked directly through Passport DOT Government, or DOTPH.
A commercial road connecting Thailand's Trat province and Cambodia's Veng district in Persay province is now 90% complete and expected to be ready ahead of schedule. That is according to the Persat Provincial Administration. Thailand's government has spent almost $2 million in building the link between these two countries, and this trade route will become an important economic channel linking the country's trades and businesses. The road comprises 4 lanes and is 14 meters wide, 1.9 kilometers long, and it's between border checkpoints in the Tasen village, Lemkat commune, Moing district in the Trat province of Thailand, and at National Road 55 in Sangkom Timay village, Timorda commune in Veng district. Its construction followed approval by the Thai parliament of a request from the governor of Trat province made on November 27 last year.
ASEAN launched the ASEAN Road Safety Video, which is a compilation of videos from each ASEAN member states showcasing ASEAN's efforts in improving road safety and reducing the road fatalities in the region during the last decade.
Road transportation has become an essential part of economic and social development in ASEAN. Within a decade, ASEAN has faced a significantly rapid rate of motorization. Under the ASEAN Transport Strategic Plan 2016 to 2025, or also known as Kuala Lumpur Transport Strategic Plan, KLTSP, ASEAN has set a target to reduce the road fatalities by 50% in ASEAN member states by 2020 and work towards further decreasing the forecast level of road fatalities in ASEAN by 2030. In achieving Kuala Lumpur Transport Strategic Plan's target, ASEAN member states have aligned and implemented the road safety initiatives in accordance with the 5 strategic pillars of the United Nations Decade of Action for Road Safety 2011 to 2020, namely Road Safety Management Pillar, Safer Roads and Mobility Pillar, Safer Vehicle Pillar, Safer Road Users Pillar, and Post-Crash Response Pillar. Each ASEAN member state has developed their respective National Action Plan on road safety, and in order to coordinate and supervise its implementation, collaboration among relevant agencies in various sectors has been established and worked well within ASEAN member states. Recognizing that a safe road infrastructure is essential in ensuring the safety of all road users, several measures have been initiated by ASEAN member states through the implementation of road assessment and improved planning, design, construction, and operation of roads. To ensure the vehicle's safety for both passive and active safety, ASEAN member states have developed the vehicle inspection system in accordance with their respective national regulations. In 2011, the Malaysian Institute of Road Safety Research, MAROS, as one of the ASEAN Road Safety Centre, has established the new car assessment programme for Southeast Asia to elevate vehicle safety standards and encourage a market for safer vehicles in the region. ASEAN member states have also implemented measures to improve road users' behaviour through public awareness programmes in their respective countries. These measures are combined with sustained enforcement of law and regulations to increase seatbelt and standard helmet wearing rates, reduce drink driving, speeding, and other risk factors. ASEAN member states recognise the importance of an immediate alert response system to post-crash emergencies and the appropriate emergency treatment for road crash victims, and established the Trauma Centre and First Aid Response Service to respond to the emergencies which can occur anytime and anywhere. Following the Phnom Penh Ministerial Declaration on ASEAN Road Safety, issued in 2004, ASEAN established the ASEAN Multi-Sector Road Safety Working Group to coordinate the implementation of road safety action plans in national and regional levels. In 2015, the ASEAN Transport Ministers have issued ASEAN Declaration on Road Safety Strategy and adopted the ASEAN Regional Road Safety Strategy, which provides a framework for road safety strategies at the regional level in accordance with the United Nations Decade of Action for Road Safety. Cooperation with ASEAN's dialogue partners and external partners to improve road safety in the region has been well established. With Japan and the European Union, several studies have been completed and several dialogues have been convened to share experiences from both regions in improving road safety. In line with the goals set under the Kuala Lumpur Transport Strategic Plan, ASEAN will continuously put its best effort to improve road safety and to reduce road fatalities in the region. These efforts will ensure a higher level of safety for the road users in the region and to keep ASEAN roads safer. Ultimately, all these actions will lead into the establishment of an efficient, safe, and integrated regional land transportation network within ASEAN and beyond.
The news continues here on ASEAN in Focus. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back.
Ang nahirapan naman kaming apat dito dahil syempre pinakita nyo sa amin ang mga performances ninyo na napakagaling.
The overall performance nyo para sa akin was excellent.
Ang galing ng kinanta nyo medley. Talagang blending.
You know, the three of you, lahat kayo, ang gagaling nyo in your own way. So congratulations, it was good performances.
Welcome back. The ASEAN Center for Biodiversity and the Philippines Climate Change Commission held the Biodiversity and Building Resilience to the Impacts of Climate Change in the ASEAN webinar held last December 15. This coincides with the 5th anniversary of the Paris Agreement, and the event sought to highlight the need to incorporate nature-based solutions as part of the approach in addressing climate change. The webinar, supported by SWEB Bio, a program from the Stockholm Resilience Center, gathered a diverse panel of experts who share their perspectives and insights on biodiversity and nature's role in building resilience against the climate crisis. Again, let's listen in.
To all our speakers. First of all, allow me to thank the Climate Change Commission of the Philippines for co-hosting this webinar with the ASEAN Center for Biodiversity. We would also like to thank SWED Bio, a program at the Stockholm Resilience Center, for its support to this online event. It is apt that we are capping off the year with a webinar that tackles the many pathways of safeguarding our future. There is no denying that climate change and its severe impacts on the environment, as Jerome earlier pointed out, in our lives and well-being are already here. We can no longer keep this to our back burner, as this issue cuts across the pressing challenges that hound us today. The far-reaching consequences of climate change disrupt our daily lives and stunt our development. ASEAN countries, most especially in the past few months, have experienced stronger and more destructive typhoons that came one after another, leaving people dead and destroying millions worth of properties. Indeed, this climate crisis is one of the main culprits that drive the loss of nature. But the main paradox here is that biodiversity and its ecosystem services also underpin our principal solutions and efforts to tackle climate change and its impacts. Without a healthy biodiversity, our fight against climate change would be an impossible feat. The region is most fortunate to be one of the world's richest in biological diversity. It occupies only 3% of the world's total surface, yet it is home to almost 20% of the known animal and plant species in the planet. Diverse ecosystems such as forests and coral reefs serve as buffers against stronger wind and weather disturbances. Sustainably managed mangroves and coastal areas help defend communities against storm surges. All these support livelihoods, health, and well-being, and build resiliency of the peoples of the ASEAN.
And for me, it just feels that ASEAN is a particularly important region for this. As we know, it's an incredibly vibrant and biodiverse part of the world. 3 of the world's 17 most biodiverse countries, 4 of the world's 25 biodiversity hotspots are here. despite, as Dr. Lim was saying, the relatively small land area. But at the same time, of the world's medium and large economies and countries, 4 of the 20 most vulnerable to the effects of climate change are also here in ASEAN. So I think there's a huge need for us to work together to protect this incredible biodiversity and the environment around us, and also to protect and mitigate the effects of climate change in this region.
Scientific evidence shows that nature-based solutions can provide up to 1/3 of all of CO2 emission reduction potential. And they also bring multiple co-benefits on economic development and on biodiversity. Next slide, please. But we also recognize that there are substantial barriers to delivering nature-based solutions at speed and at scale. More science-based evidence are needed to improve awareness of the potential for nature-based solutions. Political will from our governments has to be stronger, and the mobilization of finance has to accelerate.
The creators of a lab-grown chicken meat say it can help reduce the environmental damage involved in human food production after it made a history at a Singapore restaurant Saturday in a culinary first.
We take a sample from a living chicken. This current cell line has been taken from a chicken named Ian, who lives in California. He's still living to this day. We didn't have to kill any animals to produce this chicken. So we took just a very simple sample from one of his feathers. We no longer have to, clear cut forests to make land for, for farms. We don't have to, grow the food to feed the chickens. We don't have to water the chickens. We don't have to worry about the waste that we receive from the chickens. And we're just, growing pure clean meat. So we have no waste, and the footprint is so much smaller. We could, if we took a building, a building this size and filled it with 20,000 liter bioreactors, we could feed Asia.
So with this product, my expectation was actually, 50%. And when I tasted it on Saturday, it by far exceeded my expectation. And I would wager that in a blind taste testing, I wouldn't know the difference. The way it was cooked, the way it was served, I would have, if you told me that was, a chicken, I would have wholeheartedly believed it and enjoyed it.
Now, in a related story, some Singaporeans are apprehensive about trying this lab-grown chicken meat, which creators say can help reduce the environmental damage involved in human food production. Again, let's listen in.
It's a bit weird, and I think I will not be trying it. Yeah, because I prefer the real thing.
There would have to be a lot of research provided on it before I would do that.
Right, okay.
I've heard of other lab-grown things. I mean, my father worked with lab-grown gems back in the day, but that's a little different than food, so
okay.
I'm not discounting it, but I would need to see the research. I think that people should start leaning more towards vegetarianism, veganism, more than trying to replicate things in a lab. I think it's better to stay with natural products and plant-based products than try to play God in a petri dish.
The chef is shaving a little beautiful white truffle on top of the forest floor for you today.
In Singapore, researchers invented a robot which boasts an arm that mimics human movement to help take the load of overworked cleaners during the coronavirus pandemic.
The cleaner does not need to go into those rooms. They can use the operating interface, just like a TV game control, and on top they have a monitor. They can see the robot where he goes and show that this way. And we see some places they need to clean, so they can press a button to do the rest of the work. Because in hospitals they have and then in offices they use different chemicals. So the robot can take in any kind of chemicals. So therefore, what currently they're using now, we're going to put it in the robot for that purpose. So if they can kill 99%, the robot will also be able to do 99%. The robot they will looking at your furnitures, looking at your equipment, or even doorknobs, or all these places. So these places, the human worker also need to take time to do the work. So with this robot, and also with their spraying systems, so they can actually make this job to be more effective, because the spray actually contain a electrostatic, just like the electrically charge, so they can wrap around the whole object by itself.
The XD-Bot is a box-shaped creation on wheels mounted with a dexterous robotic limb, which can reach awkward locations such as under tables and beds. The robot, built by researchers at the city-state's Nanyang Technological University, or NTU, has a high-powered nozzle for spraying disinfectant and can tackle large surfaces rapidly. It can be controlled remotely with a laptop or tablet, reducing the risk of cleaners to becoming infected with the virus. The cleaning robot differs from others on the market, which are mainly intended to clean floor surfaces and cannot disinfect odd-shaped objects. The robot could help meet growing calls in Singapore for more deep cleaning and disinfection services, with reports suggesting cleaners are having to work long hours as demand explodes during the pandemic.
And that's all the time we have for you today. Again, thank you very much, Cristel, for joining us, and thank you for your time.
And thank you also for joining us today here in ASEAN in Focus. This is Cristel Di Marucot from your Thailand Bureau, and we live in interesting times.
I'm Alma Ang.